Yo, what up, YouTube? Alright, so in the previous video, we were working on building this JWT authentication filter. Obviously, what happens is that the user is going to send in a request. We're going to retrieve that request over here and then basically strip all the data that we need, like the authorization header. And then from that header, what we're going to take is basically the bearer token. So now the bearer token is going to contain some information like the username, for example. In this case, it's going to have the user's email. We haven't gotten to that part yet, so don't stress about that. But this JWT authentication filter is going to basically help us authenticate the token that the user is going to send with whichever request whichever or with every request that they send to any resources that require authentication or authorization. So in this JWT filter, that's basically what we're doing. We're just gonna receive that authorization header, take the bearer token, strip it, validate it obviously, and then after validating it, we're gonna take the username from the token itself, and then obviously we're gonna check it against the security context holder, and then obviously we're going to try and load the user's details using this my custom detail service class that we created within the previous video. And then from there, again, just validate the token and then proceed with sending the user to whichever resource they were trying to access, whether it's creating a resource or getting some information. Again, I'm pretty much aware that in the previous video I probably didn't explain all of the stuff to the best of my ability. Like I said, I'm also still trying to be familiar with all of this stuff. I will leave links in the description below, like I said in the previous video, just to see to videos where you can learn about this. I think there are other people that can explain it much better than I did, but we definitely need this for what we're gonna do within our project. um, and so in this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue with completing this security filter chain method that we created in another video, because we need to add this JWT authentication filter within our security filter chain over here. And then I think what I will do is I will just basically split the video in two. In the previous video, I wasn't too sure what we are going to be touching on, moving on from that video. So I think that we should just proceed with finishing up the security filter chain, and basically work with the authentication process as well. But I think I should split it in two videos so that it's its own separate video. The registration part will come later because I think the registration part is pretty much straightforward. There's nothing really complicated about it. That's why I want to leave it for last. Unfortunately, within Spring Security, logging in is quite different from what we are used to. So that's why I want to basically finish up with that before we get to the registration part. Alright, so without rambling on, by the way, just to touch on something, when we were building the JWT token service, I mentioned that basically we're gonna need a secret key that has to be hashed or using a hashing algorithm for it to be like this, because we have to put in or place it within this get signed key method over here. Right, so I couldn't find the original site that I used to hash this particular string that I have here. So I found some that might do pretty much a similar job. I'll just show you now. So again, I'll leave some of these ones within the description below. So basically, this is all you have to do. You just type in, let's say, my secret, right? Right, secret. Did I type that right? I think I did. I don't think the the casing matters, but in any case, let's just be professional. So I'm gonna click start. So this is basically just gonna hash this secret key over here, and then it'll generate a hex code. Now this one generates a couple of them, but if you check here, this one should be the closest one to the one I have within my project. So if I come back here, you should see it's pretty much similar. And then don't use these other ones. Basically the one that I used was a SHA-256 algorithm. So that's the one I use. The other site that I found that does something similar is this one. So again, I can do the same thing where I say my secret. Why can't I type this correctly? My secret, and then as you can see, SHA-256, and then there you have it. It hashes the code. I mean the string over here to this hex code over here. So I'll leave a link in the description below to the site. Again, I couldn't find the original one that I used. If I do find it anywhere between some of these videos we're using, I'll leave it in the description below. Let's get back to the project. All right, so yeah, so like I said, I just wanted to share that because I know in the previous video we did a lot of things, and yeah, so let's continue. So we are back here within our security config class, which is in our config folder over here, right? And then we have this security filter chain method that's in here. So there's a couple of methods that I want to add first before we complete the security filter chain. Just one second. All right, so I have my notes. So I'm gonna add a authentication provider method now. So let's do this. I'm gonna say add bean, and then I'm gonna say public authenti did I spell that right? Authentication, right? And then authentication provider. Why is that not working? Okay, we need to add a parameter here. Let me just see. Authentication should be authentication configuration. Should be that over there. I'm just gonna name it authentication configuration. Right, and then I'm gonna say DAO authentication provider. Right, I'm seeing a lot of errors here. Okay, just a second. I just want to see why it's giving all these errors. One moment for me, please. Alright guys, I'm back. Okay, I'm not sure why this was giving me errors. I was just checking now, but in any case I'm gonna start it again. So it needs to be authentication provider like I typed it before. I'm not sure if there was a spelling mistake or not, but it has to be from this particular namespace, Spring Security Authentication dot authentication provider. So that's the one. Just make sure that it's the interface now. So again, I'm not sure why it was giving me those errors, because I believe I typed it correctly. So the DAO authentication provider, I'm gonna just start again from the beginning, just so that you can see where I'm getting it from. Right, so all right, So again, we're gonna get that one over there, which is the DAO authentication provider. All right, DAO authentication provider equals to new. Right, and then from here we're gonna set the user details service. All right, so the one we need should be this one over here. So now remember, we created a the user details, our custom user details service. So this is the one that we're gonna insert here. Remember, we have it imported here at the top. We have it auto wired, and then we're gonna use this one. I'll explain this shortly, just a second. All right, and then we need to also set the password encoder. So here we need to say DAO authentication provider dot set password encoder. All right, and then we're gonna say we're just gonna say this dot password encoder. So don't worry about this, we're gonna create the method just now. All right, and then I think that should be it. Then we're gonna say return. All right, the authentication provider. So basically within this method, we're telling Spring Security that we are going to produce a user details service, right? So it's gonna call this method in order to authenticate the user and get the information as to which user is logging in and who's the user that's being authenticated and which details to get as soon as this over here passes. When we get the user by email, if it exists within the database, obviously we skip this part. Otherwise, if the user doesn't exist, it will throw this exception, and then it's gonna call this my custom user details service. So now this my custom user details service, like I said, this is what's going to help us. So Spring Security is going to get the password and then get the email and authenticate that user that's in the database, and then from there on, this class is what's going to allow us to return whatever information that we require about the user. All right, so again, I know probably I'm not explaining too well, but again, I'll leave links in the description below to videos where you can learn about all of this stuff. But just know that this is what we need, right? Just gonna put a comment here. Okay, now let's add the password encoder. Right. So this method is going to be pretty much similar to this one. We're going to say public password encoder, right? And then we're going to say password encoder, and then we're going to say return new bcrypt. Okay, so now the password encoder, again, this method just basically tells Spring Security that when you do get the password of the user that's in the database, when we register, obviously we're gonna hash the password, right? We're gonna hash the password, and it's gonna be in this bcrypt hashing algorithm. So basically telling Spring that when the user basically inserts their password on whenever they log in or whatever, that password needs to be matched against the hash password that's within the database. Whatever's in the database is obviously going to be hashed. So we're just basically telling Spring that just be wary, just take note of this. We need to authenticate the user with a password that's hashed with a bcrypt algorithm. I hope again I made sense there. Right, so then this password encoder is the one that we are basically inserting here in this part in this section here. All right, so that's our bcrypt and password encoder. Let me just add a comment here. So look, I just comment like this just to keep track of where because once you add a lot of methods within a class, sometimes you can get lost as to where certain methods end and stuff. So yeah, Alright, so there's another one that we need. Okay, this one is going to be the authentication manager. Alright, we're going to say authentication manager. That's the one there. Okay, so this one is going to take a parameter. So previously I had made a mistake. I had put the parameter within this authentication provider. I was wrong. I took it out when I had the video paused. So this is where we need to add the authentication configuration like I initially intended. So we're gonna come here. So again, this is the one we're taking, authentication configuration. Right, and then we're gonna say auth configuration, and then from here we're gonna say return. You know what, let me rename this. It's much shorter. Right, configuration dot get authentication manager. So this might throw an exception, so we need to add that to the method signature, right? So we're gonna say throws exception. All right. Okay. Let me just be sure. I think that's all the methods we need. All right. So just remember over here. These are the two objects that we need to have imported at the top of our class, and then we just need these two methods over here to complete our security filter chain. Now this part here, we're gonna use this, if I'm not mistaken, within the class or the method that we're gonna create to authenticate the user by creating this method over here and annotating it as a bean. When we run the Spring security application, basically Spring is gonna initialize this particular method, and it's gonna be available for us to us when we are globally within our project. So you'll see where we're gonna get to use this when we create the authentication process. So for now I'm just adding it so that we don't miss it. I don't want to keep going back and forth and stuff, but yeah. Okay, so now I want to complete this security filter chain class over here, sorry, method. Okay, so we last ended it over here, so let me just double check that I got everything in order. Alright, so this is where it ends. I just want to make a comment here. End of author. What the hell? 1 second. Apologies for that. It's a slight glitch. Okay. Alright, so now I'm gonna remove this for the time being because we're not gonna use HTTP to log in again. Alright, so the next method that we need to add chain after this authorize HTTP request method or object, we need to say we need to pull the session manager. Right, and then here, just like how we did it at the top, we're gonna use lambda expression, or should I call the session manager? Right, and then from here on we're gonna say session manager dot set session create policy. Should be this one here, session creation policy, and then we're just gonna say session. Just 1 second. Okay, that should be it, but for some reason it's giving an error. Okay, I think my mistake is, so it should be that one. Okay, so it should be in caps. I made it small letters. So session creation policies dot stateless. This is the one I was looking for. Right. We need to delete that. Okay, let me see if I can put this on the next slide so that you can see. Alright, so we have that, and then from here we're gonna chain another method. We're gonna say authentication provider. Okay, and then here we're gonna add authentication provider dots, hold on, dots add filter. Again, I'm gonna put it on the next line. Then here we're gonna put our JWT auth filter, and then this one comes before what they refer to as the username username password authentication filter, which is this one here. Alright, dot class. Did I get it right? I believe I did. Just 1 second. Oh, my apologies. This should be add filter before. Apologies for that. It should be add filter before, not add filter. Alright, and then we can close it off here. Alright, so let's say okay. Alright, so I think that should be it for now. This should be our security filter chain. So this one over here, the JWT. So remember, within Spring Security there's a lot of filters. I don't know if any of you have worked with JSPs, with servlets and stuff. So basically in Spring Security there's a lot of filters. So from the top all the way to the middle, all the way out from the bottom. I mean, from the top all the way to the middle, and then all the way to the bottom, or whichever way you want to put it. So it's a lot of filters that go through, and so we need to put this JWT filter before the username password authentication filter. So if we don't do it this way or in this order, it will not work. So our JWT, let me close this. Our JWT authentication filter basically won't be able to kick, or won't kick this filter process over here, and so basically the application is not going to work. It's just going to break. So you need to put this before the username password authentication filter class. Alright, so I think this should be it for this video. In the next one we're gonna work on building the authentication process. So I'm well aware that we haven't been testing anything, and we've just been writing all of this code and stuff. So what I wanted to do was just build all of it, add all the methods that we need, so that once we're done with it, we can do our testing within Postman, and then whatever is not working, whatever is breaking, we can then fix it bit by bit, so that you can also see that there's other ways in which you can do some debugging, instead of just always relying on certain testing tools and stuff. But yeah, in the next video we're going to work on the authentication process method, and then take it from there. Alright guys, so I think I should end the video from at this point. I don't want it to be too long. Like I said, in the next video we're gonna work on logging in or authenticating the user and stuff. Again, thanks for watching guys. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you guys within the next video. Thank you again, and cheers for now.